All right, let's talk about what makes a team truly great. I mean, what's that secret ingredient that turns a group of talented people into a force to be reckoned with? Today, we are digging into the science of why teams win or lose, and it's all based on some really fascinating research from the Kelley School of Business.
So, let's start with a classic tale of two teams. First, you've got the legendary 1980 Miracle on Ice hockey team. We're talking a bunch of college kids who took down the Soviet Union's seemingly unbeatable machine. Then, on the other hand, you have the 2004 U.S. Olympic basketball team. A dream team, right? Jam-packed with superstars, and they barely even scraped by with a bronze medal.
I mean, both of these teams were absolutely loaded with talent, but their results couldn't have been more different. And that brings up the big question we're tackling today. If just stacking your roster with the best players isn't enough to guarantee a win, then what is the secret sauce? What really makes a team great?
To figure that out, we're going to look at why those superstar teams can fail so spectacularly. Then we'll jump into a research-backed solution that's really built on three core pillars: how you measure performance, who you get involved in that process, and finally, how you use all that data to help your team grow and to reward them. You see, the big insight here is that the miracle wasn't some random miracle at all. It was the product of a very deliberate system. The coach, Herb Brooks, didn't just pick the best individual players. No way. He picked the players who would make the best team. And then he used a whopping 60 pre-Olympic games to constantly tweak and refine how they played together.
Now, compare that to the 2004 basketball team. Their coach actually blamed a flawed system for their failure. And look, this isn't just a sports story. This kind of thing happens in business all the time, when teams go wild because they're not being managed with a clear plan. The research actually points to three super common reasons this happens.
Let's take a look at what they are.
Okay, so first, there's an imbalanced focus. That's when you put way too much emphasis on individual stats and teamwork goes out the window. Or you go too far the other way. Second, an imbalance of authority. You know, when managers either micromanage everything or they're totally hands-off. And third, and this one's pretty simple, it's a failure to provide the right resources: time, support, leadership, which is exactly what the coach of that 2004 basketball team said they were missing.
Now that first problem, putting too much on the we and not enough on the me, leads to this massive issue called social loafing. You've probably seen it. It's when people put in less effort in a group because they feel like they can kind of hide. If there's no individual accountability, even your top performers can just get fed up and check out. It is an absolute team killer.
So, how do you fix this? How do you get around that whole me versus we trap? Well, according to the research, the answer is to design a performance management system that strategically balances both. It's not about picking one over the other. It's all about integrating them.
The research gives us this six-part roadmap to solve this whole problem. And these principles, they really fall into three key areas. First, what you should be measuring. Second, who you need to involve. And third, how you actually foster growth. So let's start right at the foundation: measurement.
All right, this first area is all about the what and the how of measuring performance. And let's be honest, if you measure the wrong things, the whole system is pretty much guaranteed to fail from the get-go. The first principle sounds simple, but it is so powerful. You have to measure performance at both the individual level and the team level. Why? Well, think of it this way. The individual measures are your defense against social loafing. They make sure everyone's pulling their weight. But the team measures, those are what encourage all the important stuff, like coordination and sharing information.
The really important thing here is to look beyond just, did you finish the task? You have to measure an individual's contextual performance. Are they cooperative? Do they actually support their teammates? This is how you avoid accidentally rewarding that brilliant jerk who hits their numbers but poisons the whole team culture.
Okay, next up, you have to measure both the what and the how. In performance management speak, this means looking at both the outcomes, the final results, and the processes, which are the behaviors and the steps you took to get there.
Here's how to think about the difference. Outcome measures, like sales figures, tell you if you hit the target. They're great for evaluation. But process measures, like checking if team input was considered, they're diagnostic. They tell you how you got there, and that's what you need to actually learn and get better.
Now, the right balance between process and outcome, it totally depends on the kind of work the team is doing. For, say, a factory team with really routine tasks, you'd want to emphasize outcomes. But for a project team, process measures are way more valuable because they let you make corrections along the way.
So now that we know what to measure, the next big question is, who does the measuring? This is all about striking that perfect balance between authority and empowerment.
Look, if you want people to actually buy into the system and create measures that are accurate, The people doing the work have to have a say. This recommendation is all about blending that top-down direction from managers with bottom-up empowerment from the team. It's a true collaboration.
The way this works best is as a partnership. Managers provide the big strategic goals, the what and the why, but the team members themselves, they develop the specific ways to measure it. This creates this incredible sense of ownership, and it shifts the manager's role from being a boss to being a coach.
And in that same spirit, the data shouldn't just flow from the top down. A single point of view is always going to be incomplete, right? A 360-degree perspective from multiple sources is just so much more powerful and accurate.
So this means the team is monitoring its own progress, often using peer evaluations. And trust me, nothing stops social loafing faster than knowing your teammates are watching. Then you can bring in those outside views, like from a functional manager or even other teams, to get the whole story.
Okay, we've covered how to measure and who should be involved. The final piece of this high-performance puzzle is all about using that information to help people get better and to reward success in a way that actually reinforces the right behaviors.
You know, a lot of people think performance systems are just for ratings or bonuses. But really, their most important job is to be an engine for growth and learning, not just for individuals, but for the team as a whole.
Here's a great practical tip. Hold 2 separate appraisal meetings. One for the whole team and another for private one-on-ones. And this is so crucial. You have to frame feedback as developmental, focused on the future, instead of just being a judgment on the past. That's what keeps people open to learning, instead of just getting defensive. And finally, at the end of the day, you get what you reward. This is where it all comes together. To really build that me and we culture we've been talking about, you have to have a mix of both individual and team-based rewards. And that means both money and non-monetary recognition too.
Now, the right mix isn't always 50-50. You need to tailor it based on how much the team members depend on each other. If people are mostly working on their own thing, you'll want to lean towards individual rewards. But if the work is super collaborative, you should emphasize team rewards to really encourage that coordination.
So let's bring it all back to where we started. The Miracle on Ice was not a fluke, and the 2004 basketball team's failure wasn't just some bad luck. The research on this is really clear. The difference between success and failure often comes down to having a well-designed performance management system.
Putting these principles into practice can help you actually architect your own high-performing team, so you can move beyond just, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. And that leaves us with one last really important question for you to think about in your own work. Is your system built to showcase individual stars, or is it truly designed to create a winning team? Thanks for watching.